speakers today, and it is my honor to introduce our first speaker. We all know her, and she is not only a fabulous staff minister for and at our center, she is also the director of our ministerial school here. So please join me in welcoming up Reverend Katherine McKinney. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Self-responsibility. Ooh. That's one of those words like discipline and eat your peas. But actually, as a concept, it's inherent in the science of mind and what it means to be a religious scientist. We say that it's done unto us as we believe. And so the flip side of that is that what we believe is done unto us. And so that self-responsibility is part of that. Jack Canfield, who many of us know probably mostly as the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul and all of those things, he's a wonderfully successful man. And one of the people he studied with and worked with was W. Clement Stone. W. Clement Stone was a self-made man, born very poor, became very wealthy and very successful. And one of the things he did later in life was to help other people become successful. And so when Jack Canfield first came to work for him, he tells this story about what happened. Clement Stone says, "Do you take 100% responsibility for your life?" "Well, I guess so." "Don't guess, young man. That's a yes or no question. You either say that you are or you aren't, or you do or you don't." "Well, I guess I'm not sure." "Do you blame anyone else for your circumstances? Have you ever complained about anything?" "Well, I guess I have." "Don't guess, think." "Yes, I have." "Well, then you are not 100% responsible for your life. When you are 100% responsible for your life, you understand that you create your life. You understand that you are part and parcel of the reason for your experience. If you want to be successful, and I know you do, then you will stop blaming and complaining and take responsibility for your successes and for your failures. Do you understand? I do. So Jack Canfield learned from that and went on, and I think he teaches responsibility classes now. It's a wonderful, wonderful lesson. But one of the things that Clement Stone understood is that when we blame people in our lives, there's something that happens. It's not my fault. It's one of those things that is sort of a human refrain. It goes back as far as biblical times, if not before. Adam tried to blame Eve, or did blame Eve, for the whole apple business. Their son Cain tried to evade responsibility for his actions toward his brother. "I'm not my brother's keeper." But that's what Clement Stone was trying to say. You don't evade actions. He understood that there's always that sense of responsibility. There is in this idea of responsibility something that's very special. When I was growing up, when anybody asked the question, "Who broke this?" or "How did this go missing?" nobody knew. There were 3 of us kids, and we all absolutely knew nothing and never accepted responsibility. See, that's just a human response. And why? Because we don't want to take responsibility when things go wrong. It doesn't feel good. It feels a lot like punishment. So there is this idea that what happens to us can be somebody else's fault, then it's not my fault. But there's something wonderful that happens when you actually do take responsibility, even when things go wrong. There's a blogger that I've read that tells this great story about a waitress named Lindsay. Now, this woman and her 3 companions are going out for dinner at a restaurant, and it's later in the day, and our hero is tired and a little cranky, and maybe she's not in the best of moods. She gets to the restaurant, "Please wait to be seated." And there was somebody in front of her. And so as she's standing there, she's noticing there's empty tables in the back. I wonder why they're empty. Oh, I bet the kitchen is slow. They're probably disorganized. I bet the service is poor. So by the time they got seated, and that she was kind of loaded for bear, and so they ordered, and Lindsay brought them their food, and she takes one look at this fruit salad. She says, "This is not a fresh fruit salad." Well, the waitress, Lindsay, says, "You know, you are right. That's wilted, it's overripe. I think the kitchen must be running out of fresh fruit." And she picks up that bowl, and she notices that there's some garnish on the plates of the other diners, beautiful red plump strawberries. And so she says, "Would you like a bowl full of those?" Well, our hero's mouth kind of watered when she really looked at those strawberries, and so she says, "Yes, please." And so Lindsay scurries off, and while she's gone, our hero is thinking, "I can't believe the way she didn't get defensive in all of this. That's really pretty amazing." And in just a moment, Lindsay is back with a bowl full of strawberries, but as she's bringing them to a table, you know how carpets wrinkle up? Well, she caught that wrinkle, fell over forward, strawberries went everywhere. They were all over the diners, all over the floor. Lindsay pulls herself up and she says, "Did everybody get some strawberries?" Well, there was this moment of shock, and then they all started laughing. So Lindsay, got the strawberries. She helped them clean everything up. She goes and gets more strawberries, and she brings them back. Well, our hero is really struck by this. They were really so impressed with the way Lindsay just took responsibility for everything. They left her a nice tip. And so as they were leaving, she says to her, I'm just amazed at all this, but I do have to ask you one question. Why are all those empty tables there? And Lindsay looks back at those that are waiting to be seated. She said, "Well, they want to sit in my section, and so they're waiting for a table to open up." There is an inherent win in a situation when you take responsibility. It is something that happens to us, that we own our lives, that we are not a victim of what is going on. It's an amazing thing. Psychologists say that when we bring this aspect into our lives, that we become the hero of our own story. And there's something very empowering, very freeing about just doing that. There is this idea that Jesus put forth that whatever you sow, so shall you reap. We kind of know it as what goes around comes around. So what all of these things are saying is that we don't actually evade responsibility, even though it kind of seems like we do. It seems as if we let that get past us. But there's this understanding that the psychologists will say in the studies that they've done that when you stop complaining and you stop blaming and you just own the story, that you actually become more confident. And your self-esteem grows as you come into that person who takes responsibility for their lives. So one of the things that Ernest Holmes says in the earliest part of the Science of Mind textbook, that there is a law. There is a law that enables us to take our thought and use that as what creates our lives. Now, he also says this is the greatest discovery of all. And there's a but. We also have to take responsibility for that creation, because our lives are our lives, however they turn out. And so this idea that we don't want to accept responsibility may be as old as time. But there have always been people who understood that there is something to be gained by owning your life. Shakespeare had Julius Caesar say, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves." There's an understanding there that we can do this. And so what I am saying is that it's not like eat your peas, even if you like peas. What it's really like is discovering a fresh, new food that's complex, it's easy to prepare, and it's very satisfying. So what I'm asking you all today is, imagine that W. Clement Stone is standing right here. And what he is asking you is, do you understand? And your answer is, I do. I do. And so it is. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And so now it is my pleasure to introduce to you someone that we all know very, very well, Reverend Mary Morgan.
Hi there. Thank you, Katherine. Thank you, Reverend Katherine. So I heard last week while we were gone, Reverend Louisa, everybody was laughing a real lot. Were you here? Well, who was here? You were all laughing? Now, who was at Lake Arrowhead with us? We were laughing too, weren't we? I think like minds think alike. Will was in the back telling me a joke, so I said, okay, I don't have a joke for my talk. He goes, oh, you got to start with a joke. I said, okay. So we're going to work this joke into what I just heard like 30 seconds ago. So a man and his wife were sleeping in bed. And throughout the night, he was going, oh, Alice, oh, Alice. And so his wife wakes up and goes, so who's Alice? And he goes, oh, Alice was just a horse I was betting on. You knew I was going to work a horse into this joke, didn't you? Alice was just a horse I was betting on. She goes, oh. So he goes to work that day and he comes home and she goes, oh, your horse Alice called today. He said, oh. So on that topic of self-responsibility, if you look up self-responsibility in the dictionary, it says, being responsible for what you do and say and act, being accountable. But there was this one line in the definition that I thought, well, there's an interesting one. It said, being able to be in the immediate moment and consider the consequences. Isn't that a little bit different? I mean, think about that next time you're swearing at that guy on the freeway. Right? So it's being able to be in the immediate moment and consider the consequences. That's being self-responsible. Now, every day that we're alive, we're creating an attitude about life, aren't we? We're either going in the negative route or we're going in the positive route. But we're always creating an attitude of how we're going to greet life. And one of the main principles in this teaching says, everything is a result of thought. Nothing can come into being unless it's already created in thought first, and then we create it in form, correct? So if we're thinking the correct way, we're going to create a correct result. And if we're thinking in an incorrect way, we're going to get incorrect results that aren't in alignment with where we want to go, right? So while we're in a physical universe, we're also in a spiritual universe, because there's this thing called God that's each one of us, right? That's inside of us. So God turns around and says, you have the ability right now to select, to ask for whatever you want, say, do, when, however it is. You get to create it because we're always directing our thought. Now that's interesting because I don't know about you, but sometimes do you ever wake up and look at your life and go, how did that says it all right there, that look, right? It's like, how'd this happen? How'd I get here? Here being like the pickle that you're in at the moment, right? And we all get in pickles, don't we? We're getting problems where we go, how the heck did that happen? And sometimes it happens, right? Not by just making momentous decisions, but it's all the little choices that we make day to day to day set that pattern in our life, doesn't it? It sets that pattern to where we go, what? huh? How come this person's acting that way towards me? How come this happened to me? Why did that happen? So we get to rethink, because remembering that beautiful saying that says, we can never be in control of what's happening out there. Our challenge isn't to control what's happening out there, but our challenge is to control the way we respond to what's happening out there, right? I see some shaking heads. You've had to do that, haven't you? You kind of pull back and you reconnect and go, how do I want to choose to behave? Because guess what? The choice that you make, hi Yolanda, the choice that you make, right, sets the tone for all the things that are happening next in your life, don't they? So I have a cowlick. Anybody have a cowlick? I call it a little whirligig. I've seen babies with them. They're adorable when they're babies, but when you get to be older, you kind of go, gosh, you can't figure it out. So that cowlick has a mind of its own, doesn't it? It has a pattern that it goes in your hair. So then I'm constantly trying to style my hair the other way to compensate for the cowlick. Finally, my hairdresser said, well, why don't you just go with it and make it go this way, and then your hair will lay. I'm like, imagine that. Just imagine that. I kept trying to change it. But that's the same way with our life, isn't it? Our life is a cowlick. There you go. There's a new mantra. Our life is a cowlick. But think about it, because what we're doing is we're revealing a pattern that already exists, right? And we're going with it and letting it reveal itself to us rather than trying to change everything. Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Isn't that true? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And they will. How come? Because it's the patina from which you're viewing the entire world that determines where you're going. I call it the ham sandwich theory. There's another theory. So you're going to write big notes here in this talk. I'm telling you. Never knew I was a theorist, but there we go. The ham sandwich theory, if you've taken any of my classes, it's actually the ham and cheese, right? So you go to a restaurant with your friends, right? And you're going to sit down, you're all starving. What are we going to eat, right? What are we going to eat? So then you look over at your friend and you go, what are you going to eat, right? Don't we sometimes look at our friends and say, I don't know what I'm hungry for. What are you hungry for? Like what they're hungry for is going to sate you, correct? So now we're like, okay, so now you've just given your power away, right? Because they go, well, I'm a vegan. You go, ooh, I'm not a vegan. Oh, no. All right, what are you going to have? Okay, so then the waiter comes up. Hi, I'm your waiter. What would you like? And you go, oh, what's good today? And he's just like, jeepers, well, I can tell you the specials, but, what are you hungry for? It's like, I don't know. She's hungry for vegan, and I don't like that, and she's going to have soup, and I'm starving. So you kind of go, okay. So now the waiter's like, all right, should I come back? Right? And the universe does that too, doesn't it? The universe is always listening, but sometimes the universe says, could you speak up? I didn't quite get what you were trying. Do you want ham and cheese, or do you want soup, or what do you want, right? So the waiter says, okay, all right, ham and cheese it is. La-di-da. He goes away, but before he goes away, you grab him. You go, I'm just thinking a minute. So he's like, well, in order for me to put your order into the universe, you got to let me get to the kitchen so they can cook it, right? So you go, okay, all right, I'll let you go. But sometimes we hold up our desires, don't we? Sometimes we go, I think I want that. I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know. Let me think. Okay, yeah, let's go with that. And then the person's walking away going, okay. So now they've turned in your ham and cheese order, and he comes back. Is it ham and cheese? I don't know. He goes, I got mixed up. I thought you said turkey. Didn't you say turkey? So then you go, oh, that's okay. I'll just eat the turkey. I'll eat the turkey because that's probably the cook saying the turkey's better than the ham, right? So some of us just sit with the turkey and we kind of go, oh, this wasn't what I wanted, but you know what? I'll deal with it. Have we done that? Have you done that? Right? So the question we get to ask with self-responsibility is, there's a good one. It says, what am I doing right now that's keeping me from what I'm meant to be doing? Do you have God bumps? What am I doing right now that's keeping me from what I'm meant to be doing? Right? Because always there is this divine pattern in us. And remember, this divine pattern comes up through layers and layers of our subconscious stuff. That could be scary because we got a lot of stuff, don't we? So the idea is if the life that you want isn't showing up, guess where it starts? Right within. Because it's not about anything that's going on out there. It's what are the thoughts that I'm putting out there, and what's the next step that I need to take? Where do I need to go in this that will bring me to the sense of fulfillment and contentment that I'm trying to create, right? So a lot of times we look outside of ourselves, or we look at conditions and say, gee, those aren't what I want. Gosh darn it, I'm hopeless. But in this teaching, it reminds us, Ernest Holmes reminds us all the time, he said, there is a center for good in you. There is a God power and presence that is in you. And if you dial into that, if you know that with your soul, with your real soul, it will create a desirable effect. So the way that you know if you're not on the right path is what's showing up in your life, right? Anything that is inconsistent with your heart's desire, right, with what you really want, is moving you away from the life that you really are here to be, right? Anything that's pulling away from your heart's desire is not creating the life you were meant to have. And how do you know that's true? Because not only does it pull you away from the life you want, but it also dampens your vitality. Right? It dampens your life force. And you know how you know? Because you check in with how you feel. What's your energy level like? If you're feeling depleted, especially when you're around toxic people, even if they're your friends, right? But maybe they're being toxic at that moment. So if you're around that and you're feeling like, wow, I feel like the blood just got sucked right out of my body. I don't know what happened. Well, what happened was you were making a choice that wasn't supporting the big you. So in closing, let's think about this. Our teaching is about being source-based, isn't it? It's about being God-based. It's about knowing that there is a divine pattern in you. You don't have to do anything to change it. Discover it is what you're supposed to do. You don't have to do anything like the cowlick of trying to change it, but what you do is you allow it to reveal itself to you, right? So you're here to discover that, not by agreeing with your limitations, not by playing small, not by trying to control the outside stuff, but by tapping into that divinity that's within you. You tap into that God power that says, I am for you. I am here to support you. I am opening up to this new life, this new way that I want to go to create the experience that I want. Because guess what? We weren't here to live a doldrum life, were we? But there are a lot of our friends, not us of course, that are living maybe not so hotsy-totsy lives right now. We're not here for that. We're here to be really, really big. So today, just ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing that's keeping me from what I'm meant to be doing? And then your next step is go take one action towards the thing you love, and then go make it a great day. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.